Dear student, a very good morning to all of you. In my previous, audio lecture, I have already briefed you about the effective communication. How is it possible, and what is its role in the organization? You know that to understand effective communication, this is very, very important for a manager or the director or head of the institution, because by communication they can make a good and positive environment in the organization. It is also helpful to understand the global as well as globalization in business and the cross culture, because for communication, understanding of cross culture is very easy. So, in the continuation of my previous three audio lecture, I am again giving you my this audio lecture. Kindly listen it very carefully. It may be a question in your coming exam. So the topic is patience in listening and attentiveness. This is very, very important, because sometimes I have seen many students during my class, they never listen carefully. And while I have already told you that effective listening is a cause of effective result and effective understanding. So the patience or listening carefully is one of the most important skill for the receiver the message from the sender side. Patience in listening is very important. The reception of the information and its further processing are the important elements of communication circle. Therefore, it is obvious that effective communication requires effective listening. When the listener carefully listens to the message, he can understand, judge, and evaluate the contents of it in a better way. Effective communication is impossible if the receiver does not listen to the message and does not comprehend it thoroughly. The receiver must be able to concentrate on the information imparted by the communicator. He must not be carried away by the distraction. It is likely that he must be distracted by the manner, etiquettes, and physical appearance of the communicator. He must be positive and open-minded towards the communicator. He should not let his mind wander away from what the communicator is saying. Thus, if the receiver is a patient listener with a positive and flexible mind toward the speaker and understand the message by keeping himself mentally alert, the communication is bound to be very effective. Next is adaptability. A person must give adaptive responses to the changes circumstances in any business organization. The success implementation of the technological as well as economic innovation are possible if the significant flow of information is involved. The adaptive responses of the receiver facilitates the incoming flow of the information at various levels in the organization. The communicator also has to adapt his communication to the needs and requirements of the receiver. He has to adapt it to the intellectual, academic, and linguistic competence of the receiver. The receiver's state of mind and overall psychological makeup also deserves adequate consideration. Attentiveness. The receptivity of our mind decides our attentiveness and concentration on the message, which is either to be composed, written, and transmitted by the sender, or to be read, listened, and seen by the receiver. The sender must be attentive enough in composing the message correctly, clearly, precisely, and completely before transmitting it to the receiver. And the receiver must be attentive enough to listen and see every aspect of the message received by him. A successful businessman keeps his eyes and ears open to keep himself abreast of the knowledge in his field. He must keep his mind open to new ideas, but in practical life, it is found that people are inattentive to receive a message if it contains a new idea. They are half attentive or inattentive to the message which is against their belief and unsuitable to their state and likings. Inattentiveness is actually an ignorance of the message. When the message is ignored, the communication circle remains incomplete. When the message is received, the receiver is attentive to it. He can send the feedback to the communicator if he is attentively comprehends the message. There cannot be effective communication unless both the communicator and the receiver are attentive to each other's message and feedback. Next is the time conciseness. All messages must be transmitted and responded to at the most appropriate time. Outdated information is unless the promptness in replying the essential in business because it creates a goodwill and friendliness. It is essential to answer a business phone after first ring. In written communication, the promptness in answering the business letter, it is a matter of courtesy. This timeliness may not be always possible, but the communicator and the receiver must make the effort to be prompt and timely. Any businessman cannot afford to abandon his customer by not attending the phone calls. He is likely to suffer the loss and goodwill and money. If he does not reply promptly to the letter of inquiry and order, therefore, it is important to reply the letter and answer the phone calls promptly and courteously. A reply to the letter may be delayed sometime because the writer may require some clarification from some other concerned people. He may also require the consent of his higher authority. But whenever possible, a reply must be transmitted within stipulated time. When some more time is needed to make inquiries and to collect information in order to give full and satisfactory answer to the inquirer, at least an acknowledgement receipt must be sent immediately. Simultaneously, the role of communication, the role of positivity, and the role of important things in communication are possible when we are very much concerned about time, because timely, if the sender is unable to respond to receiver, it is very negative, and in organization it creates problem. When you are in the organization or anywhere, and as a sender, if you are not giving any response on time, it will be negative for you, and receiver will not take your response so positively, so happily, or so fruitfully to be good in the organization. In the end of this audio lecture about the effective communication and how it can be made good or effective for the organization, I have already briefed you a lot in my previous 4 audio lectures. I hope every student should listen it very carefully. As a summarization of the all 4 previous audio lectures, I am telling you an effective communication is the key of success in the modern world. The increasing specialization and the expansion of the complexity of today's business have to brought about a revolution in the system of communication. The businessman who wants to survive in the competition has to develop his communicating skills. A positive and pleasant way of oral and written expression can easily build goodwill in the customer-company relationship. The communicator must strive to sound natural, friendly, sincere, and pleasant. The order can be very effective, authoritative communication if it is clear, complete, and given in a friendly manner. In an organization, an advice is effective if it is related to a particular work of the worker. It should not create in him the feeling of inferiority. Suggestions can be used as a mild and subtle form of communication. The communicator must be very clear about all the aspects of the idea in his mind and about the purpose for which it is to be communicated. An adequate knowledge of the subject matter is essential for effective communication through both oral and written media. A high level of trust and mutual respect between the sender and receiver facilitate clear and objective communication. The message must consist of an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. All the communication media have their own advantages as well as disadvantages. Before selecting the media for communication, it is essential to think over its relative suitability in communicating the messages. Proper selection and use of communication channel is a must for effective communication. The formal and informal ways of communication must be go hand in hand in every business organization. The ability and patience to listen is a managerial skill which helps the manager to improve his relationship with the people in the organization. To him, the auditory source of essential information is an important requirement for effective decision making. There can be effective communication unless both the communicator and the receiver are attentive to each other's message and feedback. We can make our communication effective and persuasive by using the word you as many times as possible by by trying to avoid the pronoun I and we in our message. Conciseness is an important factor in effective communication. It means saying all that needs to be said and no more. Business communication must be correct on obvious counts. It must be correct in tone and style of expression, spelling, grammar, format, content, statistical information, stress, unstress, intonation, pattern, etc. Completeness is an essential factor of effective communication. A message must be organized appropriately in the sense that it must include all the important ideals and its details. So, for as the communication is concerned, it is no doubt very important for the people. As far as during modern and postmodern literature, when a feeling of globalization came into its existence, it was possible by the help of communication. Dear student, in the previous I have already told you that when you are in your education or in your job, if your communication is good, not only in our country but in other country also, you can impress people by your excellent stylish communication. So for that positivity and for that result oriented purpose and the destination which you are searching for in your life, communication is very important. Even I have already told you, when your communication is not good, then not only your company, even your family members and the people, those who are directly and indirectly associated with you, will not like you, because by communication your behavior will be excellent. That will known as behavioral scientist, because by the communication you will be able to understand how to talk, whom to talk, where to talk, in which to talk and what to talk. All these things are very very important to make you a successful businessman, manager, officer, judge, advocate, professor, leader, or any other whatever you want to be in your life, and finally a good and successful citizen or a human being in a life. I hope after this you will understand a lot. I also advise you that the country has been suffering from pandemic. During this time, many institute, school, colleges are completely closed, or somewhere they are opening, but everybody is focusing on online classes. So for that purpose, this audio will help you in learning your subject or answering the question properly. I hope you all will be good at your home. Kindly follow all the instructions given by our state and central government to save yourself and your family from the pandemic. Thank you very much. Kindly, dear student, I request you all kindly subscribe my audio lecture if you think this is good for you. Thank you very much. God bless you all.